Welcome to the Intentional Success Podcast, where we unpack the top strategies, explore business trends, and drill down into best practices to help your live events production business grow and scale on purpose. I'm your host, Tom Stimson. In today's podcast, I want to steer you away from the endless cycle of business detours that aren't getting you any closer to your real goals. Let's learn about strategic roadmaps. Have you ever felt like you were kind of wandering around trying to get somewhere and didn't really know where you were? What do? Well, you pull out your phone, you punch in your destination, and you get the little app to tell you where to go. And if only it were that easy in business. But what we need in business is we actually need somebody to tell us where we are. Just like your phone can tell you where you are in your car or on your walk, you need somebody outside of your space to actually give you a clear assessment, clear perspective about where your business is. And one of the key benefits of an outside assessment is better perspective. I'll give you an example. On a recent trip, my wife and I went to Hot Springs, Arkansas for no other reason than we hadn't been there and we wanted a weekend away. And what we encountered was a lovely community of small business shops that were targeting tourists because, well, basically there's the strip, there's the Bathhouse Row where all the things are, and all these little shops aimed at tourists, and most, not all, but most seemed to have no idea what business they were in. I mean, seriously. I wanted a cup of coffee. I don't like hotel coffee. I wanted to get out and get a good cup of coffee. I get on my Google Maps. It tells me where I am. It tells me where the coffee shops are. There's one, 2 doors down, an Argentinian coffee shop. I love Argentinian coffee. You know what? I walked in there. I saw an ice cream freezer. I saw a row of people sitting at an oxygen bar wearing masks, getting oxygen. What? And no espresso machine, no barista, nothing other than a banquet-style coffee urn that I could have gotten in my hotel lobby. It's like, what is going on here? What is this other stuff in the way getting between me and a cup of coffee? While I watched whoever was working behind the counter, lean on his elbow, watching people sucking in oxygen, I'm going, apparently this is not a coffee shop, and it didn't look Argentinian at all to me. So out I go. The rest of the story is I never did find a good cup of coffee there, but that's a longer thing. There were sundry shops. There was a sundry shop. What you want when you're visiting somewhere. Yeah, you can go to the hotel lobby and you get a bag of chips from behind the counter, buy a Gatorade or whatever it is. I just wanted to go down, find a little, bodega or something that would, give us some snacks we could take to the hotel room. And I did. I found this place and I walked in there and it was the weirdest mix of household items, a few snacks. It smelled of cigarette smoke. There was no thought to the merchandising. Things were just scattered all over the place. Sometimes the shelves were empty. Sometimes they were overpacked. It was a very uninviting place. Very friendly people. I talked to the owner. She was a California expat. She told me stories about how she goes to the grocery store and buys things retail and brings them back and puts them in her shop because she just buys whatever somebody who came in the shop asked for. Well, she's listening to the locals. She's not listening to the tourists, and she's in the middle of a tourist strip. So this was the only place on the strip where you could buy a bag of chips, and the selection was horrible. We also found restaurants. We ate some great food, by the way, restaurants with 4-star chef menus and amateur service staff. It's not to say that this was a poor service community. We did find good service. We went to a pizza parlor where the food was excellent and the staff was top notch. These guys could have been waiters at the nicest restaurant anywhere, but they were working at a pizza joint because, they had blue hair and tattoos and dressed funky, but that was cool, right? So most of the restaurants didn't understand who they were trying to get into the restaurant and what kind of experience they wanted to have. Now, in live events, I come across very similar issues, right? The company will present itself one way, but it operates completely differently. Now, let me give you a couple of examples. Multiple lines of business. We see this all the time, right? Basically, you go to their website and it says, we'll take any revenue that's related to audiovisual. No specialization on services or their target customer. You need a rental, we'll rent stuff to you. Here's our rental list. You want to put on a show, we do shows. You want to stream, we stream. You want to buy some product, we do sales. You want an installation, we'll install it for you. Just submit this form. We have the best people and the best equipment, and you know they've got 3 employees, right? Completely misunderstanding how they should represent themselves to the market. They're trying to be all things to all people. They don't know what thing to be to whom, so they're trying to be everything. Another example we see is if we see a management team that's clearly focused on the competition and they're bound up in pricing wars. They don't recognize their own value proposition and differentiation in trying to get the ideal customer and win jobs. All they talk about is what brand X is doing, and they're not as good as us, but they're going to undercut our prices and they're going to steal my client. Okay. That's a problem, right? That's not understanding what business you're in. Another thing we see companies that are completely focused on their internal processes, but they neglect their sales pipeline and therefore their customers. So who are you building these processes for? Why are we building systems and processes and team ahead of demand, right? So why are you creating something for which there is no buyer? It's tough, and it's hard because as owners, we are too close to our businesses and we are aware of some of the things we're going through, but we don't have that full perspective. And it doesn't, just knowing you have a problem doesn't get you closer to the solution. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about how you really get a better understanding of what your business is. You know, what should you do with this business? What's the highest and best use of your time and resources for this business? And then how do you get there? And it's a simple process. I do this all the time. That's why I want to talk about it. We have to do an assessment. We have to formulate a strategy, and we have to write out the roadmap. It's that simple. If you're on a trip, where do you want to go? Is my car good to go? Will my car get me there? Do I know where this place is? What do I want to do when I get there? How should I pack? Who should come with me? Okay. Now, what's the path to get there? And if we have to make a detour, what's the best detour? Right? Businesses are very much the same. An assessment. If you do an assessment, if you have a third party come in and do an assessment of your business, they're going to tell you what the baseline condition of your business is. Okay. Where are you making money? Where's the money leaking out? How are your processes suitable for your strategy? Is there a strategy? Who are your best customers? Who are all these other customers who are not your best customers? What are they doing there? How does this business see itself? How do others see it? And where will this all lead if the owner and management doesn't optimize that business? What's going to happen? How do we extrapolate this 5 years from now? Where are you going to end up? There is a crystal ball. It will tell you where you're going to go, but that baseline assessment tells us what our trajectory is and what's going to happen if we don't get it under control. So with that baseline assessment, then we move into the strategy phase of the business. And strategy is really about goals, right? Strategy is engineering what you want to happen based on what you think will happen. What do you want to happen? What's your exit strategy? What business do you want to be in? How much money do you want to make? These are fair questions. Okay. What are you good at? Should we do more of that, right? What keeps you from doing more of that? What are you not good at? Should you be good at it, or is it just something that doesn't matter, right? This is all part of that strategy discussion because some part of that baseline business is noise. It is excess noise. And you either need to build the business up from baseline to meet your goals, or you need to pare it down to reduce the number of obstacles to your goals, right? You want to get to the ideal model for your goals and strategy. Okay. That's the strategic process. That's giving us direction. That's giving us vision. That's telling us what we should be doing and what we need to de-emphasize. Now that we're there, now that we know where we are and we know where we want to go, how do we get there? And that's the road mapping process. This is where it gets really fun. Where are you now? How do you get where do you want to be? What are the steps? What are the milestones? What are the key performance indicators? Who's going to have responsibility? Who has accountability? Who's going to have to make sacrifices? Where do we need to put our energy? And this is all built around a crystal clear image of success. And we're going to come back to that image again and again and again, because that roadmap isn't always going to work. The road is going to pull you off track sometimes, right? Just like on vacation. You got to go visit the alligator farm. Let's go see the alligator farm. We busted our itinerary. Was that part of our goals? Was it fun? Sure. Great. But now we got to get back on the road. All that's left once we have the roadmap is implementation. Right. All that's left is implementation. Look, the devil's in the details, right? Implementing a roadmap is what I help you do. I'm here to help you if you need it. You may have a team that can do it themselves. Okay? During this process, you're going to have a clear understanding of who's going to need to do what. You'll know right away where you're going to need help if you're going to need it. So if you are ready for an outside assessment so you can optimize your strategy, design your roadmap, just schedule a chat with me. Visit my website, trstimson.com. I'll help you get started. I'll help you figure out what the next steps are so that you can have the business that you actually want. Thanks for listening. If you want to find out more about today's episode, go to trstimson.com/podcast, where you'll find the show notes, related links, and tons of other valuable resources. If you haven't already subscribed to the Intentional Success Podcast, please do so, and I'd greatly appreciate if you would rate and review the show. Also, if you think you might be a good fit to work together or want more information about the Stimson Group, I'd love to hear from you. Visit trstimson.com for more information.